We're going to be talking about one of my favorite letters. All right, here we go. It is the letter Ayin. Okay, say Ayin. Ayin is silent. The Aleph, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is silent. Well, Ayin is also silent. It is the 16th letter, and it has a numerical value of 70. Now, how many of you know 70 is a very important number biblically? Okay. It is the symbol of sight or insight. It means to know or to perceive. And so one of its meanings is to see or have eyes. If you remember, Balaam thought he could see, but he couldn't see. The church of Laodicea thinks they can see, but they can't see. So here we go. They're just like fonts. They change a little bit. So here's another Ayin. But I want you to think of it in terms of eyesight or insight. Now, what's important about that?
I didn't get that.
Well, I did. No, I'm talking to Siri, talking to me. I don't know why. All right. Well, they're going to hear the word of God. Here is Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 4. And I don't know why. I mean, something stuck. Oh, here we go. All right, I don't know if anybody can read that, but starting at the top right, it's Shema. And then what's the next word? Israel. And then it's the Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, Adonai, and then Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. All right, now, here's the thing about this word. In every Torah scroll, the Ayin is made real big. And at the very end, the Dalet is made real big. And what this means basically is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. So what the enlarged Ayin talks about is we need to understand. It's to perceive, to understand what we hear and should obey. Now what's amazing, you take that large Ayin and you put it together with the Dalet, you get a word. And that word basically means eternity, forever. Now, listen to this. If you look at it, the Ayin is what? The eye. And the Dalet is what? A door. Here's how it would have been written in an ancient Torah scroll. This is someone who sees the door. And who is the door? That's right. So the word Shema, which I think is very interesting, Shem is what word? Name. We should know the name. We should know the name of who this is talking about. We need to acknowledge the door. That's what it says. We see the door. Look at John 10:7. Yeshua said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am what? I am the door. So we must realize that we must not only understand, but we must give witness to what we know. Isaiah 43:10, God says, You are my witnesses, says the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that you may know and believe me and understand that I am He. Those were the exact words Yeshua said when they all fell backwards. He said, I am He. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. So it's quite fascinating that when we understand this to mean eternity. Oops, I went too far. So here we see it means that Shema, it could be a big I. We need to really know and understand this concept. Now, how many of you heard the phrase, we said it today, Leolam Vaed? Well, there's Ed. It means forever and ever. So that word refers to forever. And we know in Exodus 15:18, the Lord shall reign for how long? Leolam Vayed, forever and ever. Now, some people also ask, why are those letters so enlarged? Why? Well, they also say that the reason that they're enlarged is because people can assume they know better than God. What do I mean by that? The letter Ayin is silent, remember? So is the letter Aleph. So why don't we just put an Aleph there? Because then it changes the name to perhaps Israel. The Lord our God is one Lord. Oh, they both don't make a sound, so what difference would it make? Well, guess what? That dalet, you can see the large dalet, the reason why it's large, so someone would accidentally put a resh there. The resh is very similar to the dalet, but now it means another. So then it can say, perhaps Israel, the Lord our God, is another. So this is why it's so important in the Hebrew that you correctly translate. Now, how many of you ever seen this before? What is that called? The eye of God. This is like the eye of God is what it's called from NASA's website. Well, I think it's interesting. In Psalms 33:18, it says, behold, the eye of the Lord is upon those who fear him, upon them who hope in his mercy. How many of you hope in God's mercy? You better be hoping in God's mercy. But it's the eye of the Lord who's watching all of those that fear him. Do we fear God? We should. Look at Psalm 34:15. Here, both of his eyes. It says, the eyes of the Lord are upon the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry. I think it's fascinating that both of God's eyes are focused when it comes to the righteous. Now look at 2 Chronicles 16:9. The eyes of the Lord are running to and fro throughout the whole earth to show himself strong in behalf of those whose heart is perfect toward him. How many of you heard that verse before? Well, the thing is this is amazing. God has eyes. He wants to bless people. He wants to show mercy to people. And so we need to make sure that our heart is perfect toward him. And then we know God's eyes will be upon us. Look at Psalm 11:4. The Lord is in his holy temple. The Lord's throne is in heaven, and his eyes behold. His eyelids try the children of men. Do you know the Hebrew word here for all these? Ayin. In Hebrew, every letter is a word. Okay? So all these here, if you look up the translation, it's the letter or word, Ayin. Now look at this. I'm going to put something in his eye here. What's that? That's the nation of Israel. Look at Deuteronomy. This is chapter 11, verse 12. A land which the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are always on it from the beginning of the year, even to the end of the year. Wow. In Deuteronomy 32:10, it says, he found him in a desert land and in the waste, howling wilderness. He led him about, he instructed him, and he kept Israel as what? The apple of his eye. That's the focus. Do you realize when the nations come and they start poking at Israel, they're poking God in the eye? If there's anything we're going to protect, it's our eyes. Well, guess what? When you go attacking Israel, that means you're poking God in the eyes. The eye, what does it do? When you look at someone's eyes, it reflects the world outside, but it also reveals the world inside. How many of you can look in someone's eyes and you can read them? You know what I mean? Especially if you're really close, you can read them. But sometimes you can just look in those eyes and you know this person is empty. There's nothing there. Or this person has a different intention. But here's the thing. A person's outlook reveals their inner character. The entire universe is brought into focus through a small opening of our eye. And the eye is the window of the brain, since it is through the sense of sight that we perceive external impressions and we then internalize them to understand it more fully. I want to stop here a minute because I was watching the news just last night, my son and I, and it was amazing because they now say, and saw it demonstrated, they have mind-reading AI programs that can paint what you're thinking. If you're thinking of a horse, or if you're looking at a horse and you're thinking of a horse, it can read your thoughts and paint the horse. That's here. It's right now. It's available right now. But when they did it with like 4 or 5 subjects at the same time, it was like, let's say it was a horse in a field and there's flowers and trees. One person, all they focus on is the horse. The other one would be more focused on the flowers and the trees, the other on the pasture. So they're kind of all seeing different things on an individual basis depending on how you perceive the incident or the picture. This is where we're at technologically right now. In Deuteronomy 6:8, the Torah is to be a sign upon our hand, and they'll be as frontlets where? Between your eyes. This is what our focus is supposed to be. Listen to 1 Peter 5:2. He says, shepherd the flock of God. It doesn't say fleece the flock, it's feed the flock. Shepherd the flock of God which is among you, and serve as overseers, not by compulsion, but willingly, not for dishonest gain, but eagerly, not as being lords over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that does not fade away. We know Yeshua is the shepherd of the flock. As a matter of fact, in Psalm 23:1, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. But he's going to come. And if anybody knows what all of our thoughts have been, we've been painting it on his canvas in heaven. Now, this is kind of fascinating. Look at Genesis. This is chapter 35, verse 7. He built an altar and he called the place the house of God, El Bethel, because that is where God appeared to him when he fled from the face of his brother. Who knows what the Hebrew word for the face is? Paneh. Remember, the pei is mouth or face. And the word there is paneh. But look at this. In Genesis 3:19, God tells Adam, in the sweat of your face, you will eat bread. Well, this time, the word face is off, the aleph final fe. And that means nose. So you have to understand, in any translation, you miss a whole bunch. Here it says face both times. One refers to the whole face, the other one to the nose, like a snorting bull. You know, there's a different focuses in Hebrew that is missed in every translation. But get a load of this. In Numbers 14:14, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of the land, for they have heard that the Lord is among his people, that the Lord is seen face to face. But guess what? That's a mistranslation again. You would think if this was face, it would be paneh or paneim or off. No, this time it's not the face. This time it's not the nose. The word is Ayin. It's the eyes. But see, in translations, you miss all this. So basically, what this is saying, you are seeing eye to eye. And seeing eye to eye means more than something physical, but perception and understanding as well. How many of us know we use this phrase in English, hey, do we see eye to eye? That doesn't mean, can I look at your eyeballs and you look at mine? It means, do we have an understanding? But see, if you don't know the Hebrew, you've missed the whole fact that it goes from the face, to the nose, and it's the same English word, but always different Hebrew words, so you miss the nuances of it. But here, wow, God is the one who wants to see eye to eye. Now, with that understanding, let's go to Isaiah 52, verse 7 through 10. This is the gospel. This is where the gospel comes from. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him that brings Basora, the good news, that publishes peace, that brings good tidings, or the good news of good, that publishes salvation, or Yeshua, that says to Zion, your God reigns. The watchmen shall lift up the voice, with the voice together shall they sing, for they shall see what? Eye to eye. Wow, can you believe that? The watchman is often translated as Notzarim, which is the word for Christian. Can you believe a time is coming when the Christians and the Jews are going to see eye to eye and have the same understanding? When the Lord shall bring Zion, break forth into joy and sing, you waste places, for the Lord has comforted his people. He's redeemed Jerusalem. The Lord has made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth will see Yeshua of our God. Just as the actions of the body are guided by the eyes, so Israel was to be directed by leaders whose eyes were fixed upon the Torah. That's God's word. Matter of fact, what does God keep as the apple of his eye? Israel. Well, look what Proverbs 7:2 says. Keep my commandments and live, and keep my law as the apple of your eye. What? We're supposed to be focusing on the Torah? You can imagine why the devil wants to he's poking you in the eye. So we're focused on the wrong thing. We've got to focus on the right things. As a matter of fact, look at Proverbs 20:19. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keeps the law is happy. Why? Because they have vision. Everything in Hebrew, poetry and all is a doublet. They say the same thing twice, kind of in different ways. And what they're saying is, those who don't keep the law have no vision, and they perish. But those who keep the law, they're happy because they can see. Look at Lamentations 2:9. Her gates are sunk into the ground. He has destroyed and broken her bars. Her king and her princes are among the Gentiles. The law is no more. Her prophets also find no vision from the Lord. Why do the prophets have no vision? There's no law. Look at Psalms 19:7 and 8. The law of the Lord is what? It's perfect. And what is it supposed to do? Convert the soul. How do you convert anybody if you're lawless? The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are what? Right. Rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure. And what does it do? It enlightens the eyes. You have vision. You can see. Why do you think the devil's been rampant through all the churches saying throw out the law? Because he wants the church to be like the church of Laodicea, which is blind. We're not saved by the law. That's not what I'm saying. But we need to be eating it if we're going and consuming it, if we're going to have eyesight. Look at Proverbs 15:3. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. How many of you know the eyes are windows through which light passes? And God is light. God is going through your eyes. Okay, now, I'm going to slow down here because this is kind of heavy, but it's so simple. It's so simple. Remember I just said the eyes are the windows through which light passes? Well, let's look at Matthew 6:22. The lamp of the body is what? Oh my gosh. Now look at Proverbs 6:23. The commandment is a lamp and the law is the light, the Torah. We don't have that. That came down from heaven. And when the Torah comes through our eyes as we're reading it, it enlightens our understanding. And then it says, if therefore your eye is good, and notice it said eye, not eyes. But it said, if your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is what? Evil, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Okay. We know the commandment is a lamp and the law is light. And in one sense, it's the lamp of the body is the eye. And is there light going through our eyes? Are our eyes lit? Now, what does it mean when it says if your eye is evil? What does that mean if you have an evil eye? Does anybody know? A lot of people think if you have an evil eye, that means you're looking at horrible things on TV. Or anybody want to, I know you know. Anybody else want to tell me? See, these are Hebrew idioms. And if you don't know the Hebrew idiom, you're not going to know. Exactly. What the evil eye is someone who's stingy. It's someone who's completely stingy. They don't want to give to the poor. They don't want to share. It's all about me. Now, with that understanding, look at Matthew 25:2. There were 5 wise virgins, 5 foolish virgins, and those that were foolish, they did take their lamps, but they had no oil. And look at Matthew 25:8. The foolish said to the wise, give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. Wow. The lamps have gone out. They don't have the law. They've gone blind like the church of Laodicea. This is why in Romans 13:12, the night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Light is armor. The Torah is your armor. Now, look at this. Mark 7:22. He talks about the works of the flesh and different things, and he talks about thefts and covetousness and wickedness and deceit, lasciviousness, and what? An evil eye, blasphemy, pride, and foolishness. So an evil eye basically means to be stingy. But now here comes a concept I'm going to tie together and have you understand why. Matthew 5:29. It says, if your right eye offends you, pluck it out and cast it from you. How come it doesn't say the left eye? Why the right eye? Does that mean the right eye is the good eye and the left eye is the evil eye? Okay, what's going on here? Well, here's the thing. Here's the letter Ayin. And here we were just reading. Now, this person is looking at you. And so the right eye is the evil eye. Does everyone see that? Okay. And the left eye is the good eye. The Ayin represents your understanding, your will. So I want you to think of the letter Ayin, and it's got these 2 eyes. And one of them is an evil eye, and one of them is a good eye. Now, the Bible does not want us to take this literally and literally poke out our eye. Okay, we just got done reading how we're to cast off the works of darkness. All right? So in one sense, the right eye is the evil inclination, and then our left eye is our good inclination. What does Paul say in Romans? Man, what I want to do, I don't do, and what I don't want to do, I do. And so what they're saying here about cutting off your eye, it doesn't mean literally. It's talking about you need to throw off the evil inclination and have God develop the good inclination. Now, where is the Ayin in the Hebrew alphabet? Okay, it's between the Pei and the Samek. Now, the Samek, if you remembered, means to support one another, to uphold someone. Well, the Pei is mouth. or speech. So what do we find here? The good eye is looking to support people, and the evil eye has evil speech. The mouth. They talk about themselves only. Now let's look at Deuteronomy 15, 9 through 11. He says, beware that there is not a thought in your wicked heart saying, oh no, the seventh year, the year of release is at hand. And then your eye may be evil. Right here it's telling us what the evil eye means. Against your poor brother, and you don't give him anything because you're stingy. And then he cries to the Lord against you, and it is sin to you. You will surely give to him, and your heart shall not be grieved when you give to him, because this thing is of the Lord your God, and he'll bless you in all your works, and in all that you put your hand to. The poor is never going to cease out of the land anyway. Therefore I command you, you shall open your hand wide to your brother, to your poor, to your needy in your land. Right there is it explaining to you in the Torah, the evil eye refers to someone who's not helping the poor and they're stingy. As a matter of fact, we see that also in Proverbs 28:22. He who hastens to be rich has what? An evil eye, and considers not that poverty is going to come upon him. So now, when you connect the New Testament to the Old Testament, we have a better understanding, or ayin, of what an evil eye is and what a good eye is. According to the sages, the good eye of the ayin looks toward the samek, that stands for support and will support others, and the evil eye looks toward the letter pei, the mouth, considering what it can consume. The mouth eats. And so the evil eye is, it's all about me, what I'm going to eat. But the good eye is looking the other direction. Who can I support? Matter of fact, look at Psalm 49:6. Those that trust in their wealth and boast themselves in the multitude of their riches, it goes on to say they're in big trouble. Psalm 94:4. How long shall they utter and speak hard things, and all the workers of iniquity boast themselves? They think it's about their mouth, what they can consume. It's all about them. Now, I don't know how many of you knew this, but Psalms 119 is all about the Hebrew alphabet. Many of you in your Bibles, you'll see these Hebrew words. Those are the Hebrew letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Okay? It's written in alphabetical order. The first 8 verses are dedicated to the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Again, you don't see this in English, but in Hebrew, the first 8 verses all begin with a word that begin with the letter Aleph. The next 8, Beit. The next 8, Gimel. Okay, so there's 22 letters times 8, 176. So there's 176 verses in Psalm 119. And they're broken up, each letter gets 8 verses to that particular letter. So let's go to Psalms 119, verses 121 through 128, and look at Ayin. And it says, I have done judgment and justice. Lead me not to my oppressors. Be surety for your servant for good. Let not the proud oppress me. My what? Eyes. Here's Ayin. My eyes fail for your salvation, for the word of your righteousness. Deal with your servant according to your mercy. Teach me your statutes. I'm your servant. Give me understanding. That's Ayin is all about, understanding, so that I can know your testimonies. Now, this is one of the most amazing verses in the whole Bible. Listen to what David says. It is time for you, Lord, to get to work because they voided your Torah. It doesn't apply anymore. The Torah's done away with. Right here, David is saying, do something because people are saying the Torah is no more. Therefore, I love your commandments above gold, above fine gold. Therefore, I esteem all your precepts concerning all things to be right, and I hate every false way. Well, the Hebrew word for time is the ayin and the tav. It's time to seek the Lord. Well, guess what? The ayin means what? Eye, to see. And the ancient tav is where we get our T from. It means to see the cross. It's time for us to see the cross. That's what time it is. In Jeremiah 3:21, A voice was heard upon the high places, weeping, supplications of the children, for they have perverted their way, they've forgotten the Lord their God. See, Jeremiah also wrote Lamentations. And so here we see in Lamentations, Jeremiah is bemoaning the destruction of Jerusalem and wondering about the extent of God's anger. Let's look at Lamentations 3:31 through 36. The book of Lamentations, most people have no idea, is also written alphabetically. There are 22 verses in the first chapter, and they're written in alphabetical order. The first verse begins with Aleph. The next verse begins with Beit. The next verse with Gimel. And it goes all the way through the Hebrew alphabet. And then the second chapter in Hebrew, again, it is written completely alphabetical, but the letter Ayin and the letter Pei are reversed. They're in the wrong order. Oh no, what's going on? That means they're speaking before they understand. Ayin, we're supposed to understand before Pei we speak. But in Lamentations 2, all of a sudden, those are switched because now they're speaking about which they know nothing about. And then in chapter 3, again, it's alphabetical, but there's 3 verses for each letter. And again, the Pei and the Ayin are reversed, so it's getting multiplied. And then the last chapter 5, it's totally random. There is no order at all, which shows you the total chaos as the nation of Israel is being destroyed in Jerusalem. But you don't see that in any other language. Okay, so here we are in Lamentations 3:31 through 36. It says, the Lord will not cast us off forever, for though he cause grief, yet will he have compassion according to the multitude of his loving kindness. He does not afflict willingly, nor grieve the children of men, to crush under feet all the prisoners of the earth, to turn aside the right of a man before the face of the Most High, to pervert a man in his cause, the Lord doesn't approve. He doesn't want us to pervert a man in his cause. This is that word. Well, guess what? The Ayin is made small. How come this is in every scroll, the Ayin there is made small? Well, the Ayin is the numerical value of 70. And this is relating to the 70 years of captivity that Israel was going to have to be in, and Israel would be made small. And then in Jeremiah 13:17, it says, if you will not hear it, look at this. My soul will weep in secret places because of your pride. My eye, and the Hebrew word here is ayin, shall weep sore. And the word for weep there is damah. It run down with tears because the Lord's flock is being carried away captive. Wow. Well, here is the word for weep, damah. But guess what? In the ancient Hebrew, that means dalet is door, the mem is water, and the eye, damah, literally means water pouring out of the door of the eye. But you only see this in Hebrew. But the fact that the Lord, my question to you is this: who's speaking, Jeremiah or God? But it says, my soul shall weep in secret for your pride, and my eye will weep sore and run down with tears because the Lord's flock is carried away captive. Okay, we're going to finish this up. Here is another word with ayin in front of it, which means humility. We see in Proverbs 22:4, it is by humility and the fear of the Lord, that's how you get riches, honor, and life. True riches. Okay, here we go. I got a few words. Do you see that word at the top? Okay, ayin, and then you see the mem and the dalet. That would be amad. And guess what amad means? To stand. Here you have underneath amud, which means a pillar. What does a pillar do? It stands there. And then the last one, who can tell me the last one? Oh, what is it? Amida. And Amida is known as the standing prayer. Now, who has not heard of the standing prayer? Everyone's heard of the standing prayer? I can't believe it. Okay, come on. You haven't heard of the standing prayer. You got to know the standing prayer. And I'll tell you why. In Acts, if you remember, Peter and John were going up to the temple, it says, at the time of prayer. That's the wrong translation. It's not the time of prayer. It was the time of the prayer. And it was the Amida that they were praying. And it was 3 p.m, the time of the evening sacrifice. Everyone has to what? When this Amida is said, they have to stand. Well, here's a guy who's lame in his feet. He's over 40 years old, and every single day he was laid at the door receiving alms because he's never been able to walk, and he's always wanted to stand for the standing prayer. And that's why when they come and they say, silver and gold we don't have, but we do have, rise up and walk, he, for the first time, got to stand for the standing prayer. That's why it emphasizes he's running and leaping and praising God because he could stand. But most Christians don't even know it's the Amida. And we have the Amida prayer that the Lord prayed 3 times a day his entire life in our office. If everybody wants a copy of that prayer, it is an incredible prayer. But the people, if you don't understand the culture, you're never going to know the Amida, which is tied to the prayer that Peter and John were going up to pray. As a matter of fact, in the Amida, there's another prayer for the resurrection of the dead. And that's the very prayer they were praying when Yeshua all of a sudden appeared before them. That is the prayer they were praying. Blessed are you, Lord our God, who raises the dead. Hello? Whoa, they were shocked. Okay, one more word. Eden. How many have heard of the Garden of Eden? That's how it is spelled with the Ayin, Dalet, and the final noon. But guess what? That means to see the door to life. The Dalet is a door. The noon is life abundantly. And the Garden of Eden is the place where you will see the door of life. And who is the door of life? Yeshua. Isn't that amazing? This is why you want to know the Hebrew culture. You want to know the Hebrew language because then it makes the whole New Testament come alive. All right, let's stand.